should be live now. No?
No.
You got 2 viewers.
Let me see something. Yeah, it is now. No, it's not. Yes, it is. That one.
Yeah. 15 viewers. So you're definitely live.
Yeah, I see.
They're coming in.
I see Angela or Angel. Rahubat, Rahubat. Bantu1, Rahubat. Angel, USA, Badon 66, Rahubat. Just waiting for more people to join. All right, let's just hit the theme song. Rahubat J. Miss TBJ in the house, Rahubat. M37VQ, Rahubat. Ubura, Rahubat. J Plays, Rahubat. Master Teacher. Don't worry, we're going to get into the questions. Send the link out, let everyone know we're live, we're back. Him for building time. Murray. Turn on the line for us all. Fade away. Time coming. It won't be long. When dreams come true. And how about you? Master Teacher. Freedom for the master. Teacher. Rahubat, Rahubat, everyone. Glad to have you here, Kun Murray. Rahubat, Coco Brown. Master Teacher. Let everyone know this is the best place to be here on planet ET, planet Earth. Hey, no Tim Rahubat. Bring the Master Teacher home. Planet Terror. Yeah, I like that. Master Teacher. Yeah, come on, help us. Let us get this to 150 viewers. You can help us by sharing the live to everyone you know. like the video. Remember, subscribe if you haven't already done so. It helps us to keep producing the content and reaching more people. Rahubat Christian, Unzikyo Kiso Rahubat. Yep, Free the Master Teacher, Rahubat Moisa, Rahubat family. Good to be back. Good to be back. And everything technically is back on point. Yeah, help us share the links. Share and make sure that you get everyone that you know to come on board. We want to try and help us get to 150 viewers. Yes, great to have you back with us. I've been a little bit under the weather recently, still feeling a bit rough, but you know, we try our best not to miss a beat, so we still soldier on. All right, and wow, Miss TBJ, you're showing us love already. Wow, thank you so much. You know, every little helps. Yeah, as I was saying, yeah, still under the weather a little bit, roughing it through, but we're good. We're going to make sure that you guys help me with your energy, and we're going to make this a good one. But as you know, no matter what you do, you can't please everyone. So it's all about the positivity, the love, the ashuk, and bringing awareness to the master teacher, bringing awareness to Wu-Sabat, and making sure that, yeah, this reaches everyone on the planet. Some people don't really realize just where or what they're involved in with Wu-Sabat, yeah? Right now, Wu-Sabat is like Bitcoin when it was like 2 pence or 2 cents, wherever you are in the world. It was like, no one was like really picking up except for those people that were like, boom, I get this. Even if I don't get it, I'm with it because it's gonna blow up. There were people that put like, I don't know, some few pennies into Bitcoin, and when it blew up later on, they were digging through their old hard drives trying to find their accounts to kind of reclaim it when it was massive. So those at the forefront, those that have the insight, they can see and really see, like, you know, Wu-Sabat is it. There's nothing else out there on the planet like Wu-Sabat. And whether people like it or not, in the sense of, you don't have to agree, but truth is truth. Truth will always prevail. And you know Wu-Sabat works because you can put it to the test. You can check it out. You can ask us questions and go and do your own research and confirm it for yourself. You see, so you guys are right on time. It's spreading and it will continue to do so because it's real. We get to the nitty-gritty. We answer people's questions. We make ourselves available. As you may have known or may have seen already, we're streaming live 24/7 now. You see, all the videos we've ever put out, new ones, brothers from other states, from other countries. Yeah, we're showcasing Wu-Sabat now from all around the world. We told you we were going to do this. We delivered. We told you we were going to do the documentary. We delivered. We're consistent, weekly videos don't stop coming. So those of you who are members, you get to watch everything first. Exclusive footage and things that others are only going to get later on. So we want to thank you all for all your support, because without you, there's no us. But most of all, the master teacher's name, image, words, doctrine, culture is now widely known, and it's going to continue to get even more so. So thank you for all those who share, subscribe, like. The views go up, the algorithms, help us to keep pushing the content. All right, so I just wanted to do a big recap because some people are joining us for the first time. Like I said, forgive me, my voice is a little bit rough today, still recovering from a little cold or flu or whatever bugs are going around. But you know what? Every time you overdo it, like push yourself too hard, don't rest, don't relax, don't focus on your diet, don't meditate, don't do the things that Wu-Sabat teaches us so we can maintain a healthy lifestyle, then, your body will give will give in, and you will be like, okay, now I got to go back to the drawing board, start doing my breathing again, relaxing, meditation, watch my diet, the energies I'm around. All of that is in Wu-Sabat. So, yeah, I was just looking through some of the scrolls, man, just like, wow, do you guys not see the works of the master teacher, Parnabab Yanun, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York? Do you not see the works? And I was just reflecting on the books, and I'm like, do you not see that there's nothing or no one on the planet right now that can touch Parnabab Yanun nor Wu-Sabat? All right, we got a caller already, so let's get straight in. Rahubat, caller, what's your name and where you calling from, and what's your question, please?
Rahubat second, this is Jose.
Hey, Rahubat Jose, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing my best, Amal.
All right, second, two quick questions.
Two.
That I have today. The first one is regarding the book of breath.
The breath book.
The breath book, yes. I would love to have a quick demonstration on how to perform the complete union breath or a proper internal exercise.
Yeah, I ain't gonna do that here, man. No, relax. But we have spiritual classes every Thursday that you can definitely get that demonstrated to you. Because you can imagine, once I do that, someone else is gonna say, "Can you do some Wu-Tang stretch or something?" And then it never stops. But
okay,
yeah.
So what is the idea that I can pop up with this question? You said Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday we have the spiritual classes, right? Where I just realized if you're not local, then it might be a bit. Yeah, it's in person, it's physical. But the sister on the Hereafter Doctrine, she shows you the exercises. So maybe she will do a video on that, or maybe we'll do a video. Yeah, we actually. Thank you. That's a good suggestion. We'll do a video with one of the master teachers that do, not the master teacher, but one of our student teachers that is a master at the whole breathing. We'll get them to maybe do a demonstration video. This is why it's good to tune into the live, because we can now put other content that people might request. But yeah, on these we want to stick to the the questions that we can get through quickly, so we can answer a lot of people's questions. So what your second question?
Okay, the second one I think is something that will be on the same category, which is the handshake for men. I still don't know up to now. I haven't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Things like that, it's in person. It's like this is why we encourage people to kind of go to their local communities and get involved, because it's like those things are part of building community, reaching, and not everything you'll be able to do online. This is why we we always say come and fellowship, come to the stores, meet people, touch people, talk, and get to know people. Yeah.
It's just the fact that here we don't have a community yet.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna
understand the reasons.
We're gonna definitely help you to. We need to build communities where we don't have any. So, like I say, you're the seed right where you are. So, yeah.
Okay, that's true.
We know you're. We know you've been working hard, and you're already part of the online community. You're doing great things. So, we appreciate, love you for that. And yeah, we're gonna definitely work with you to build a community where you are.
Okay, appreciate love on that one. Second, I guess there is one explanation that is needed on the genetic case, which is on the 174. You have access to the scroll?
Yes, I think that was one of the ones I actually picked out. So yeah, it's right here.
Okay,
let me just grab it.
174.
Okay, give me a moment. I'm just trying to pick
Let me try to open it here as well.
Yeah, I got it. Genetic kiss. Yeah.
Yeah, verse 174.
Okay, 1 second. $174, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Yes, I just need an explanation on that verse.
Okay, let me, it's customary for us to go one verse before and then the one after. So from 173, a living being spirit, it is personal control, working off of animal instinct, inborn impulse. Even some react off of environment. Now going into 174. So, spirit is just a living thing which acts and reacts out of instinct, not controlled by emotions as pa-ba'a, the soul. To say that a living being spirit is its personal guide and control is to say that living being spirit is its personal God, which is no more than action and reaction, cause and effect. All right, so verse 74, what the master is explaining and teaching us is that, do you remember we teach that every living thing has a spirit, but not every living thing has a soul, or you can have a soul and lose it. So what it's saying in 174 is, so spirit is just a living thing. So that would be a rock, a tree, an animal, which acts and reacts out of instinct. This is why when we teach and explain to people that animals don't have souls, people say, yeah, but I've seen a dog react when, say, another dog is hurt. And what we're explaining, or what Bahana Babianun is explaining here, is that that's a reaction out of instinct. Just like if somebody just comes up to you and raise their hand like they were going to hit you, you would react instinctively, right? Because that's just dealing with cause and effect, or as he puts it, action and reaction. It's very rare that somebody, another example is like when you have, let's say you have a group of people in a room and a bang goes off, like a balloon pops, or there's a like a gun. You see people will react because it's cause and effect. Some people might jump, some people might even start to run, some people might just sit still. So it's explaining that when people just act off of instinct, it doesn't mean that they are acting off of emotions, because emotions is what ties you to the ba'a, or the soul. So is that any clearer now?
A little bit, because the part on which he mentions the internal guide, it's where I fail to connect. So the internal guide.
Internal guide. What verse is that? Because 74 doesn't have internal guide.
174, yes.
Let me read it again. So, spirit is just a living thing which acts and reacts out of instinct, not controlled by emotions as pa-ba'a, the soul. So it's explaining that any living thing will act and react based off of instinct. It's not controlled by emotions. This is why it can be confusing for people, because you can have two people or a group of people. This goes to the whole thing about being an originator, where you originate things, or being a imitator. So someone can imitate someone to the point where they can be so convincing that you may think that they're the real thing. So another good example would be like, so like when you watch movies, you can have an actor or an actress that mimics emotions, right? Because in here it's trying to explain to you that it's not, instinct is not controlled by emotion. So when you're operating off of instinct, or you're acting and mimicking emotions, doesn't mean it's real. So an actor or actress can cry on cue with real tears, right? Which to the onlooker might look like, oh, someone is really touched emotionally, as if you would be if you were witnessing something that really touched your emotions or your soul, and you may cry. You know, you may have tears of joy, or tears based on, you know, being upset or angry or whatever, right? Now, if you have two people who are crying and tears are running, but one is a trained actor who can cry on cue. Because, why do I say cry on cue? Because when you're filming something, you may have to take many takes to get it right. You know, they go take 1, take 2, take 3. So imagine on take 10, you're able to reproduce and cry in the exact same way every single time. That's definitely not from emotions, that's from controlled behavior. Yeah, so this is why people will get confused between people who actually have a soul to those who don't have a soul, but they react off of instincts, or just because they are living because they have a spirit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I just have a slightly difference on the book here on my side.
Okay, go on.
I can, because the difference between the instinct reaction, like survival, it's clear. On my side here, it says there's 174 verse. Let me start from 173. It says, and of course, Kaha spirit is active and creative.
Oh, do you know what? I see
Yes.
what's happening. We got different verse numbers. The one you're reading is 168 on mine, because sometimes when they've been reprinted or new editions, things change. So go ahead. Now I am with you, but keep going. But on mine is 168. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I'll start again. And of course, Kaha spirit is active and creative in your physical world or matter.
Yeah.
Which I need explanation follows.
Okay.
And the 9 represents mind, and of the 4th abode or mental.
Yep.
Spirit, which is the 3rd abode. Spiritual realm is the motivating matter in nature, or the 2nd abode, realm of force.
Right.
This is the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd abode. I got lost here.
Okay, let me explain it before we get too far, right? So yeah, so, and of course, Ka'a, spirit, is the active and creative in your physical world of matter. This is why we're saying that in the world of matter, or the physical world, excuse me. Sorry, I feel a sneeze coming up. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Like I said, I'm getting over this. Right, excuse me. So, yeah, so that's why we're saying every living thing has a spirit. So because you're active and you're moving in the physical world, just means you have a spirit. Now, when it goes on to say, and the 9 represents mind, because remember, you're going from 0 to 9 being the highest in terms of mind, and going to the higher realms of 9 ether. So he's saying that the 4th abode is the mental, because remember, you start from the physical, then you go on to what he says, the 2nd realm being, in this regard, the realm of force, which is known as the plane of force. And then you have the spiritual realm, and then the 4th plane being the mental. The mental connects you to the to the higher ones, right? So the third is the spirit. So when it's saying that, it's the way he explained it, Partner Babyanun, in another recording, is that if you look at an apple, right? An apple is physical, right? You look at the
Yeah.
apple, but you don't see what you're getting from the apple when you eat it. So what do you get from the apple when you eat it?
Like the vitamins,
Right, which is nutrition.
nutrition, yes.
Yeah, so you don't see the nutrition, but the nutrition operates in the plane of force. You see? So if you read this again now properly, it's saying that of course your ka'a spirit is active and creative in your physical world of matter, because like I gave you the examples of animals, plants, rocks, stones, they are reacting, and yourself or any living being that doesn't have a soul in the physical world. But the higher realms, you got to use your mind to connect to those. So even though your spirit's alive, your mental ties you to the higher abodes. So you're really looking at nature, yeah, because nature reacts. That's why I gave you the example of the apple. When you see nature and you see the apple is growing, the apple has a divine purpose, and its purpose is to get to a particular point where it's ripe, it's healthy, and it has nutrition, and its purpose is to then be eaten by a person to receive that nutrition. If the apple stays on the tree and it goes past that purpose of being picked and eaten, it will rot and fall to the ground and has not fulfilled its purpose. You see, so everything is designed by nature, and each level of the realms or abodes of nature react with the higher levels. So I don't know, is that helping you in any way? Is that making sense?
Yes, it's making sense. And it's taking me to a follow-up question, which is the fourth abode related with the nine mind?
Yes. But what I'm
Okay.
saying is the beginning stages of you connecting to the higher mind. So the fourth is the mental. And then as you go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 9, you're raising up or going through the different realms. But each realm is not like just one layer. It's just to help you kind of like have a full understanding. But each one has many sub levels.
Yeah, those sub-levels are the space, matter, and time, correct?
Not well. Space, matter, and time is they're part of what you are experiencing in this three-dimensional world or abode. So they're inseparable. Like they work together in union. You can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
So they're part of that. But as you get outside of what we know as space, matter, and time, it's completely different. But you won't know that obviously because we're trying to explain things from outside people and people, places, and things
Yes.
to people that are stuck in people, places, and things. But the way you start to get outside of people, places, and things is by way of your mind, because you can then tap into the higher realms and receive information that comes from beyond people, places, and things. And it's only when you start to manifest the information that you're receiving that becomes information, and then you do things or come up with things that everyone looks at you like amazingly. Like, how are you able to do that? This is what Partner Babyanun is doing. And he explains it. He says, I can try and explain to you things in information, but you won't get it. So I have to bring it down to a way that you can understand it and give it to you as information in people, places, and things. And the best you can do is give you things that, even though you're using the restrictions, it's still going to be above everyone else. This is why he's able to, like, will read the Bible or read a verse or read something and be like, show you something that you've looked and it's been in your face for your entire life, but you never saw it. And he's able to do that because he has his barythry gland. He has connection to these higher realms and the beings that reside on these higher realms. So even though, like, for example, I'll give you another great example. Everyone in the religious world, in the people, places, and things, would give you a name like God, Allah, Elohim, all these beings that yeah, thank you. I'm gonna make sure, man, I'm not looking nothing on my face and that. All right, here we go. Right, so
I can't see you.
all right, so this is a perfect example, right? Everyone tries to express to you what a deity is, and they will use names like God, Allah, Elohim, all of these names that people have used for years. And then the master comes along and he says, I'm going to tell you what it is in the higher realms, even using our language, which no one was able to resurrect on the planet as the first language. He's going to say to you, right, the best name you can use is the All. Even though that's still in English, he has brought something from outside, which is Pa'ut, and brought it down to a level in information as the All. Now, the people prior to hearing that term never thought about that, because when you say the All, even though we're using English, there's nothing more that you can come up with that is better than that. Because the question will be, when you say the All, what people will try and say, what is it? He said, all is. You can't add to it. You can't add to all, because if all is, whatever you're going to add, try to add to it, it's already a part of all. So you can't add to it and you can't take away from it. All is. And even that, a lot of people found it difficult to get their head around. But that was still used in English. So there's no better term to use than the all or all. Even though people say, what you mean the God? No, all. All is what? All is. All what? All. Does that make sense, what I'm saying to you? How he's able to come along, bring things down to our level. He said, you're asking me to describe a color to you that you don't know, have never seen. So how can I show you or describe that color when you're trapped in a place where what you call colors are made up of three primary colors that mix together to give you all the colors that you've ever seen? And no combination or mixture of those colors is going to give you. And actually he was able to do that because there was, brothers that were working on the land were able to tap into the ancestors, our ancestors that reside on these higher realms or vibrations, and like the master teacher, where his pen is guided by a being, a supreme being that is so powerful and outside of what you comprehend, to bring this affirmation that gets put into the scrolls. So much so that when the master reads the scrolls himself afterwards, he's amazed, because he's an avatar, he's a guide, he's being utilized, his pen is guided. So the same way there were brothers that were painting on the land that would mix colors based on the receiving out formation, and he'll be like, that's interesting. How did you come up with that color? Because it didn't exist prior to that. So I hope I've given you enough to kind of like make that verse clear. If not, you have to probe and ask another question.
Comprehensive understanding about it, especially because today I understand that everything that we perceive, especially on people, places, and things, are more related with the story of in the beginning it was. So we always try to look into beginning of things.
Right.
So to look all when it started, when, and then all that spookism. So I understand that by now. And
again, that was another point where he was able to point out, like, all their monotheistic religious books, they start with a creation. But
yes,
many people didn't realize until he said what came before creation. Because people are under the impression that creation is the start of everything. And he was like, no, to create something means to grow. And like you say, the language you're using was given to you by the Adamites. So he's like, no, I can tell you what come before creation. And I remember when I first was like, what? And he was like, existence. Existence comes before creation. And now you have to wrap your mind around that. Because you're in your mind, you're like, what? Yeah, things exist. And then you take those things that exist to create things. And then you're saying creation. And he said, in the beginning. And then you're like, in the beginning. Is it in the beginning or at the beginning? Because there's a big difference when you know English. In is a small word. Out, it's another small word. But in and out are completely opposite or different things. So you can't say God is in heaven and then say God is bigger than heaven. That doesn't make sense. He can't be inside something if he's bigger and he can't fit into it. So these are the little things that he was able to point out. Like, you think Genesis means, most people say Genesis means the beginning. That's just because they assume, because it says in the beginning. But you're like, somebody's talking, somebody's writing this. So that person already existed. And they're telling you something that took place. And they're talking about someone. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, blah, blah, blah. Somebody is talking. So the question was then, who is talking? And this is how...
And how is talking?
And how are they talking? Yeah. Do they have a mouth? And then we start to go into all these little details, and it becomes a joke because you realize at that point, you've been trapped. Your mind's been trapped to the point where you didn't see these things. You didn't see the fact that they tell you there were only two people at the beginning, Adam and Eve, that were created by God. And yet, everybody on the planet is supposed to come from these two people. Then you're not able to see at that point that you got different blood types, different DNA, different complexions, different what people call hair textures. And you can go on and on and on. And then you're like, Cain kills Abel, but he's afraid that people are going to kill him. At that time, you're like, well, who's going to kill him? Because there's no one else on the planet, according to if you're following that book, you see. And so what I'm basically saying is that to tap into the higher realms and receive information, you have to read the scrolls from the master teacher, because he says, and he has proved it, he can continuously give you new information that nobody on the planet is talking about. And then later on, everybody starts talking about it, not realizing that they're saying something that he said 30, 20, or 40 years ago. You see, so we're in the day and time. We say all the time, as I was just saying, everyone on the Wu-Sabat, you know, like, yeah, the madness out there is crazy in terms of how people have been duped. with wrong information. But we're living in a day and time where everything is being made clear. So, yeah, the truth is being revealed in every walk of life. And the body of work from the master teacher speaks for itself. So, yeah, was that it, or do you have any more?
One more to go. One, just to leave the 6 theta energies, which is second, when it's said that sooner or later pleasure must be offset by pain. What it means, it's on a verse 305 on the book here that I have.
The same genetic is.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we keep coming back to Wu-Sabat. It's about balance, yeah? And when what that's talking about is balance, meaning that you have a pendulum, right, that swings in that one direction or the other. Everything in this three-dimensional world has a middle point where you can go to the left or you can go to the right. We say agreeable, disagreeable, good and bad, pain and pleasure. So if you lean towards one side, eventually it's on balance. So you have to balance it out with the other side. So too much pleasure will ultimately bring about pain. Too much pain, if you go through a lot of pain and go through so much, eventually it will swing the other way to bring back balance, because things have to be in order. Order is the natural state that our ancestors created, what you're calling the universe, the planets, etc. They have laws that they have to abide by. And that law is one of those laws, because just like you have laws on the physical plane, you have laws on the other planes. So, yeah, this is where Buddha would say desires will lead to suffering. I'm going to sneeze again. Oh, man. Yeah. So, go ahead.
Is it possible to distinguish in a simple manner pleasure from joy?
Pleasure from joy. I think, yes. So you can have joy where you're happy for others, and pleasure is generally more self-indulgence or for yourself. So when you're more selfish, or you're only like looking at, okay, even in say a sexual intercourse or interaction with another party or being or whatever, like it's a mutual thing. You can't just be selfish and think about yourself. You
Yes.
get it? Because it's a connection and exchange of energy. So
Correct.
if you constantly draw and extract from one, that one is going to get depleted, right? So you can end up causing more damage because you're being selfish. So the way you hear this in the world is like, do unto others what you like to be done to yourself. The more you give, the more you receive. And some people they'll think like, that just sounds crazy. But these are what we call parables and riddles, or information that you have to be able to understand what is being taught. So rather than write like a whole book to explain something very simple, a parable could be used that just makes sense. Like the master writes in the Patarak, the very first one, he says, if there are two of you and you wish to get milk from a cow, it is not wise to cut the cow in half. Do you get it?
Yes.
Why?
Because that's not how you get the milk.
Right. None of you are going to get milk.
Yes.
So if you're fighting over the cow and you decide, you know what?
You take the cow.
Yeah, let's cut it in half so you can have a half and I have a half. That's not right knowledge. That's not right mind. That's not right thinking. So rather than, and people will do that. I mean, there was one video that I saw where people, like we say, people are reacting off of emotion. So again, the balance is about being able to see things from a very logical, factual point of view. Just because you have emotions doesn't mean that you should let it be out of control. So there's a video I've seen, for example, where a female was so angry that her mate, her husband, her boyfriend, whatever, was cheating, that she cut off his genitals while he was sleeping. Now, that's kind of like the cow example. How does that make sense? Because she's so upset that he cheated or whatever, she don't want him to have no one else. But at the same time, she's not going to have him anymore anyway, because what she's done doesn't make any sense. And she was sitting there holding it, crying. And it's like reacting off of emotions instead of being balanced, to always know that you need to be centered and not overindulge, because ultimately that's going to lead to suffering. Like, you know, you can have a cake, let's say, using another example, enjoy the cake. Now, if you allow that to become a habit and the groove sets in your mind, and you start having that cake not once, not twice, it goes from maybe once a month to once a week to maybe 5 cakes a day. Eventually, all that sugar, all the problems that comes from that means that you've obviously indulged too much, and you're going to have to swing back the other way and get the pain. You hear the gym people, like personal trainers, they say no gain without pain. So now you have to swing it to the other direction and put in the work and go through that pain of training to get rid of that to get rid of what you caused. Yeah.
Yes, makes a lot of sense what you're saying on the nutshell, because even the book mentions genetic case,
Yeah.
that if we feed off the nature of those 4 generations of ancestors that we all have within ourselves, and if we feed off the disagreeable nature, we may end up doing things that we may regret.
That's right.
Because they can take over our emotions, and at the end of the day, we are responsible for it. However, they can just take place and act on our behalf, and then we can regret those actions afterwards.
So it's
And it makes sense
always
when you're
about
saying
being
to
balanced.
follow the
Don't
culture.
overdo anything. Don't stay away from the extremes. It's like you see people that wear clothes that are so tight they can't even breathe. And then you got the other extreme where they're wearing such baggy clothes that they can't even run or move in them. So we know, like, there's a balance for everything, you know, and Wu-Sabat is about balance. It's about using your mind and making sure things are making sense. You know, that's why Wu-Sabat it's an intellectual doctrine, because it deals with science, it deals with facts, it deals with things that you have to think. You don't just believe, because you can believe anything and someone will take you for a ride. You don't just accept things on face value. And when you start to probe and ask people questions, that's why the master put himself out to be questioned. And he did it on purpose. It's like, yeah, badger me, question me, to the point where, like, I answer all the questions to prove his divinity. Then he was like, okay, now go and do that to everybody else. That way you will see for yourself who is able to stand the test of time, who is able to answer the questions, who is the one that has been sent, who is the one that knows the way. And like we say all the time, there's no one dead or alive that has been able to stand anywhere, not even in the shadows of the master teacher. And all those beings that people talk about, like Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, or obviously we know some of these beings didn't even exist, but even like the one they're talking about, Jesus, who everybody talks about, Lord Jesus, God, every day you hear this word, right? He was after the order of Melchizedek. And Melchizedek is that being Malachi Zodok. He's that high priest that everyone was learning from, the incarnation of Tahuti. So even all those greatest, prophets in their scriptures all learnt from him. No wonder he's still here able to do the works to the point where like people can try and pretend. This is why, people don't give him the attention that he deserves. And because to a certain degree, a lot of people will have to humble and settle down and just listen and learn from one who knows instead of trying to be who you're not. You can be a part. We're all a part of it, because that's why it says, when you know about the all's prayer, you're a part of the all, and the all is a part of you. You are one with all, and all is one with you. You can succeed as a part of all, but fail as an individual. You can be
Correct.
all that you wish in the all, as long as your wish is to stay as a part of all. You see? But people try to be individuals. They try to come with something that they think they're inventing when there's nothing new under the sun.
Under the sun, yes.
Most people have forgotten this information because it was by design that you forgot. You were given amnesia, which is what the spell of Leviathan and the spell of Kingu or Six Ether was cast on us to forget who we are. But we're in a day and time which was designed for people to wake up, because the forces of natural nature, 9 ether forces, were going to come back around as natural nature, evolves and the revolution, you see. So, you've been hugging up the line for a long time. So, my brother,
Okay.
as much as I love to speak to you all day, we got to take other questions, yeah?
Appreciate love. Thank
All
you
right.
very much
No
for your
worries.
time. Inside, we're trying to build the community. By the way, we're having positive feedback from the community in UK. We are receiving calls, messages, suggestions on how to move forward and spread the word here in Southern Africa. So very soon you will receive from our side very good news regarding.
Absolutely, and you've just touched on something else that the master predicted years ago. He told us, he said, many people in the West have half souls, and that people in the motherland had full souls. And so when this awakening starts, they were going to wake up more quickly and first, because they have the sun as well. Remember, he said he's come with the sun of righteousness with healing in its wings. So you can see what's taking place already now in Africa with, many people waking up. And Wu-Sabat is in Africa as well. So as you know, again, that's another one of those predictions that the master has said that's come through. All right, let's get back to some of the chat. You really, guys, I'm sorry, man. My sinuses are, not fully recovered. Okay, let's get some of these questions. Right, that's right, Mrs. TBJ. We have to become what we forgot. Exactly, that's what it is. It's about remembering. It's all in your DNA. It's just being reactivated. So you're right. Are we supposed to pray to Yeshua? This is from Jay Plays. First of all, like we say with Wu-Sabat, the first question is, are you supposed to pray? And what is praying? And why do you need to pray to someone? And why are you saying to Yeshua? Because how do you know Yeshua exists? How do you know he can hear your language? How do you know he can listen or hear you or communicate back to you? How will you know if he does? So with Wu-Sabat, we go into the question. So we don't pray like that, okay? What we know is that you have ancestors that you connect to, on different vibrations, different realms that assist you because they're from your bloodline and they will help you. So you communicate and you speak with them, okay? You don't direct your divine essence and give that to somebody else. This is how religion was able to put the spell on you, because you're taught to look outside of yourself, not within or internal. Internal is your DNA, your genes, your genetics. This is going back generations to those ancestors. So you need to connect and dial the right telephone number to those beings that care about you. They're your family. So we connect and we speak and communicate with our ancestors. And when you say Yeshua, those people that are related to that being, whichever one you're talking about, because there are many Yeshuas, as in, if you say the word means savior, see, this is why we say the language is so important. There are many saviors, and which one are you talking about? All right, but yeah, ultimately, we communicate with our ancestors. Okay, what you know, again, that's what you know about 66 life path. Even in asking questions in Wu-Sabat, you have to use your mind and think of the question, because that's so broad. What you know about 66 life paths? Which 66 life paths are you talking about? From which reference, from which book, who is saying that? Why is only 66 when we can go up to 9 to the 9 power of 9? Like, there's so much to ask in a question as well, like, so that you get the correct information. Is libation good, like pouring drink or water to the earth to thank your ancestors? Yeah, that's a form of respect and giving respect, but we're not doing it in the form of an offering. Like, we don't do any type of offerings that, like how people talk about giving something for an exchange of something. It's just respect, but yeah, we don't use alcohol and all of that. It's like, you can just speak words. So what is the purpose of that? Because are they going to drink the alcohol? What is the purpose of pouring alcohol on the floor? It's something that's been passed down, and like Chinese whispers, people do things and they just do it after a while. But when you go to the roots of it, it's something that may have been introduced by a culture or someone's act, and then everyone else starts to follow it, or it's a distortion of something that was done in a different way, you see. So we obviously give respect and we honor our ancestors and nature, because we're part of nature as animists. We got another call? Okay, let's take Rahubat, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from, and what's your question, please?
It's Kerith Muir from Jamaica.
Greetings, brother. Rahubat.
Yes. I wanted to ask a question about like frequencies and energies. Now, every human being vibrates, or every individual vibrates at a certain frequency, and we embody certain energies. So if I, as a man, find a woman that does not match my frequency and my energy, there's a chance that when I'm in a relationship with her, she may not like me, or she may not be that compatible with me. Am I right about that?
Yes, you are.
So I guess that further goes to show that what you are saying about people mixing and creating hybrid children is a problem. So you're basically saying that's one of the reasons why people shouldn't mix too much.
No, you're saying, I am saying it. It's not me saying it. Wherever you are coming from, like in terms of whether it's genetically, scientifically, it just makes sense. It's facts that, if you're like weakening your genetics, then of course the offspring is going to have lesser in terms of the genes or the this is why when you say frequency is important, our elders, they used to study people's natures and match people accordingly. This is where the whole thing about horoscopes and all of that comes from, because it wasn't about, oh, I like you because you got green eyes or whatever, and let's have a baby. You know, it's like there's a science, yeah, and an art to why you're mixing with somebody. Is it for fun? Is it just frivolous? Is it just for pleasure? Or is it for procreation? So if you're going to procreate, then you want to procreate with the best and healthy genes. So it's like the potency of, it's like if you have, you know, those drinks that we used to dilute and mix water to, the more you mix it down, the less potent it becomes. So it's not me saying it, it's just that it just makes sense. And even the Bible, the Quran, all these religious books, they say we made you into tribes so that you will know of each other and really not to mix. But obviously over time, mixtures took place and it continues, and you know, to the point where you even had beings that raped people to produce offspring in Genesis, you know, 6:4, etc. So it was something that was a controlled environment, because when you're a scientist and you're carrying out genetic experiments, you try different things out, and some will work and some won't work. So a lot of the beings that came here, like the Anunnaki and certain beings, they actually produce all types of beings because they were actually trying to graft a being to do work, and that being had to have certain intelligence so that it can follow instructions. It had to know how to hold tools so that it can do the work. It's just like today, man is trying to create a robot that will help do the work. Now, everyone on the planet are trying to create robots. You know, China are doing it, America are doing it, everyone. Why? Because they want to make the robot do all the mundane tasks, the AI to do all the calculations, so that you physically don't have to hoover the place or all of this. So the robots have to get more intelligent, because some of these robots can't climb upstairs, they can't hold or grip things, they can't think when they're confronted with a situation that needs logic and needs you to be able to think mind, think on the spot, because they're only as good as the programming. So there was the same thing with these ancient beings. Some of them came out wrong with 6 toes, 6 arms, all types of deformities. And you know, we've spoken about this scroll, Design the Genes, because that goes into how these extraterrestrials were creating all types of beings, which later on, yeah, this is how people end up with all kinds. And then you have the genetics mixed with some of these extraterrestrials that people on the planet have. Like we mentioned hirsutism, which comes from mixing with the Shaggies and the Duanis. These are those beings with hairy, like Bigfoot. So you have a lot of people that have hair all over their bodies. That comes from that. You have, you know, the Down syndrome, which comes from the Teros. You have like obesity, which comes from, you know, the Deros. You have so many beings that have been mixed with these extraterrestrials that creates all types of problems. So is the brother still on the line?
Yeah, he's still on.
Okay, so I don't know if that answered your question, brother, but we can expound if you want me to.
Yes, that answered my question.
Yeah.
But what I'm also looking at is that, so even though it may be better that people don't mix,
No, sorry.
and they
One other
find
thing.
somebody that is compatible with them, there are always situations in which somebody might, like, probably you couldn't find somebody that's the best for you genetically, and maybe you found somebody who could help you in life, but they probably weren't best for you genetically. There are always situations like that.
Well, this is what we're saying, that there is a science to it, and we most of the people on the planet are actually mixed. That's why I was saying you have like half souls, full souls, And even though, right, it's not to be like judgmental, because you can meet somebody that's not on the same vibration and frequency, but they can become or raise their vibration to that frequency. This is what Wu-Sabat is teaching us, the science of how you can reprogram your DNA, right? Or like silence the personalities or these ancestors within you that will be giving you particular vibrations or behavior patterns, right? So Wu-Sabat is that science that teaches you about genetics. We spoke about genetic kiss, right? Which is this actual fact, right? Actual fact 109. We talk about designer genes. We talk about, you know, the new science of wu-nuwapu. We talk about 18 plus 18 plus 1, 37 genes of the mitochondrial DNA. So now, when you're starting to mix with somebody, this is where people would say sickle cell or certain ailments. It's because they don't check compatibility, or check blood types, check whether or not they're compatible with each other. So then when they are not, they mix and produce a child that may have, like we said, Down syndrome or sickle cell or some other ailment that comes from genetic mixing without the intelligence behind what you're doing. So there's different types of mixing that we're talking about. If we're talking about just meeting somebody and being compatible and growing together, as long as you're both on Wu-Sabat and applying Wu-Sabat, because that's a very important element, because you can outgrow each other. If one person is raising their vibration by the practices that they're implementing in their life by way of Wu-Sabat, then you're going to grow apart. Because like I said, like if you don't eat certain things and you don't drink certain things and you don't want to go to certain places, you don't want to listen to certain music, you don't want to wear certain clothes, you don't want to do the things that are not conducive for your best growth, then the other person is doing all those things. There's going to be a friction or a clash unless you're able to coexist without allowing, you know, what they're doing negatively to impact you, you see. So if you don't smoke, I use this example a lot, and you're giving up smoking and you're in a room and someone is smoking and you don't want to be in that room, you're going to have to leave the room or ask them to stop. So it's all about different circumstances, situations, and using nine mind and using your judgment to know what's best. The ideal situation is that you're growing together. It might take some time for someone to stop eating meat, but your example, that's just an example. They may then decide later on that, you know what, I can see they're surviving, they're okay, because there's also misinformation and misconceptions that you get protein from meat, and if you don't have meat, you're not going to have enough protein. And this is something that, like Chinese whispers, will be repeated until you do the studies and research, and you're like, the protein you're saying you're not getting from the meat is the protein that the animals ate from getting vegetation. So why go through the animal to get the vegetation secondhand? I mean, to get the protein secondhand that they got from the vegetables. So you might as well just eat the vegetables and bypass that, you know, that process. So Wu-Sabat, it's all about facts, research, proving things and making it make sense. So if you're going to mix with somebody and produce a child that's going to have some type of disease or suffer because you didn't think to check your blood types to see if you were compatible, then that's not right knowledge.
Okay. And I like what you said at one point, where you said, we don't have to be racist to other groups of people in order to love our own.
Correct. But again, the definition of the word racist is again misconstrued. Because to be racist is not what people make out to be racist. Meaning that if you're a horrible person, you're a horrible person. If you're a violent person, you're a violent person. So you attacking someone, you can say it's racist, but it's you carrying out that behavior. And the best way, an example to clarify that point is that you wouldn't say that a guitarist, because phonetics and words are very important because they relate, right? A guitarist is a musician that prefers the guitar as an instrument. You can have a violinist, you can have a pianist, you can have someone who just likes playing drums. But just because you prefer one over the other does not mean you hate, you hate playing the trombone just because you prefer playing the guitar. You see, so it's the same way. Just because you prefer your race doesn't mean you should hate or hate other races. You should prefer your own race. Everybody prefers their own race. Everyone feels familiar in the environment that they can relate to or connect to. Sometimes you just go walk around, you might see a Turkish restaurant and a lot of Turkish people are there and they enjoy their company and they don't hate you. That's who they know and who they relate to. You might go a bit further down and you see an Indian restaurant and there'll be many Indians in there. You go to an African restaurant, there's going to be African people there because we all prefer the foods that we eat. But does that mean you hate the Asian or the Chinese because they eat? Well, Chinese is a different thing because they don't even eat the food that they sell us. But I'm just saying, like, to have a preference over your own doesn't mean you hate anyone else. To hate is a sin. Anyone who hates, regardless of their color or their race, is a hater. What do you get from hating anyone? You see?
There's nothing good that comes from negativity.
There you go. So Wu-Sabat is very practical, very real. But others will look at you and say, because I've seen some people say comments and say, oh, they're a racist group or something along those lines. Like, why? Give us examples of what we've said or done that is racist. If we tell you the facts about genetics, it's the facts about genetics. We can tell you the facts about history, about the cosmos, about biology, whatever subject. You can go and research it for yourself and see whether or not what we're saying holds true. So we are very open and we welcome everyone. The reality is everyone's journey is different. Many are called, few are chosen. Some people can't deal with discipline or deal with the changes. But the one thing that is constant in life is change. So if you're not changing and not growing and not evolving, you're just dead, because something that is dead doesn't really change. It's just stagnant. So yeah, when it comes to partners, and remember, we are looking at the generations to come, because the mistakes that you make, you can't continue them in the future. So that's why Partner Bab Yanun puts out scrolls like the Gospel of Yanun on the sacred feminine, because the feminine, or the carrier of the mitochondrial DNA, is responsible for carrying the records from offspring in terms of the female to the female offspring for generations. And you have to maintain that record to keep the genes pure. So it's more also about the future generations. Because if we as adults or the elders didn't know this information about mixing our genetics, multiple partners, and not understanding that or overstanding the implications of what you're taking into your being, it's a very serious thing. This is why a lot of people have mental problems, because they have conflicting personalities and voices that they hear all the time. And so it's a very important aspect of our doctrine that you're aware of this, because you are composed of the 30 or 29 or less personalities that make you up. Now, that's going back 4 generations from yourself. Okay, so, and each one of those people have their own 30, right, personalities each. Now, if you mix with someone who has their 30 personalities, plus all their 30 personalities or less personalities, you're taking all of that DNA into you. You see, and it just grows and grows and grows. So it is a very serious thing. That's why you get confused, because you don't know your own voice. And Wu-Sabat helps you to silence the voices that don't mean you well, that are negative, that are not helping you progress, and then raise up those voices that are within your, you know, your DNA, your family, that want to help you. And that's why they will lead you into Wu-Sabat. But you can't take, as the saying goes, I think it's a horse or a donkey, whatever, to the stream and then force them to drink. It's a self exorcism that you have to kind of like do on yourself. And Wu-Sabat has all the tools. It's amazing when I look at, that's what I was saying, I was looking at some of the scrolls, and I'm like, there isn't one question that the master hasn't answered. He makes it so clear on every subject that you can want to know. How do I pray? How do I eat? How do I sleep? How do I meditate? Can I contact my ancestors? Who am I talking to? We can go on and on and on and on. And he answers every question. You see, so Wu-Sabat is, yeah, definitely the solution and the future, as I always say. Is that it, brother? Because again, we want to allow other people to get through on the line.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure, and I'll try and give you a short answer this time.
Okay, I agree that we should love our own, but I'm sure there are times when even your own don't accept you, and you end up running into somebody that looks very different from you, and they accept you more than your own people sometimes.
Correction, I did not say just to love your own. Ashuk, divine love, is to love everyone and everything. But it depends on what you mean love. Because love is another translated or misconstrued word. Love is not, it depends what you're talking about when you say love your own. We say love everyone. But I know what you mean in terms of, do you love someone to the point of your own detriment? No, of course not. That's not right knowledge. That's why I'm saying that your own doesn't mean people that look like you only. Your own are people that are living and operating the way you do, that you're familiar with. The word family is not necessarily just about bloodline, because like you say, there are people in your bloodline that don't mean you well, or they're disagreeable. And there are people in your family that are agreeable. So that doesn't mean you're not going to meet other people in other families or other races that don't operate under the same vibration and frequency that you are. And those are going to be more familiar to you because, you know, you're both. It's like anyone on Wu-Sabat. Sometimes people get bogged down with, they think the goal is, I'm just going to be in Wu-Sabat to be one of the 144,000. No one can say for sure, I'm going to be one of the 144,000. But the benefits you get from Wu-Sabat, regardless of who you are going to give you a better life. Applying Wu-Sabat, applying the knowledge of Wu-Sabat will help you, regardless. So, yeah, we're not under the impression that because somebody looks like you, that it means they're not going to be harmful or disagreeable to you. Do you follow?
Yes, thank you.
And Takafirafu, you're welcome. Okay, let's see what we got in the chat. Christian Edward, are you the devil, Sakin? I have to ask. That's funny, because again, that's a matter of opinion, right? Agreeable, disagreeable, good, bad. The devil, according to who? You know, someone, that's what I said at the beginning, like you can never please everyone. to someone you might be the best thing since sliced bread. To someone else, you're the worst thing since sliced bread. So it's a matter of perspective and why and what is the reason why they say that. Because the master said the same thing. Like, as much as I am loved, there are people who feel like he needs to be stopped and have even attempted to take him out. You know what I mean? And it's the same with even, you know, Ibrahim Traore now. Like, there are people that want to take him out, but there are people who love him. So you will always get those who love you, and you will always get those who hate, if you want to use those words, right? All right, we've got a live caller, so let me just take that call. Rahubat, greetings. Caller, where are you calling from, and what's your question, please?
I'm calling from Canada.
Rahubat.
And my question is, well, I have two questions. The first question is, I heard in one of the lectures, teachings, that the actual Jesus, the Jesus that is followed in Christianity, he actually didn't die apparently on the crucifixion, and that he shape-shifted, and it was actually Judas that was crucified. And so if that's the case, when they speak about the blood of Christ, it's not really that Christ that they're thinking that it is.
That's right. And in English, words like they, we have to be like, who are we talking about? Because there are some people who know exactly which Christ they're worshipping, because you have Christ and you have the Antichrist, you have the three different Jesuses. So the whole situation, but that's a very good point you made. Even in terms of the blood, it doesn't even make sense, because why the blood? And
well, this is, yes.
how much blood does a human being have in them? You have about 6 ounces of blood generally, right?
Right.
So when people are saying the blood of Christ, the blood of Christ, apart from what you just said, this is what Wu-Sabat does, nine mind. It makes you think, use your brain, right? You're saying the blood of Christ. Is it real blood? Is it symbolic? Because it will run out. If there's only 6 ounces of it, and if it's dead, that blood is no good anyway. And is it magic blood? Because everyone around the world is saying blood of Christ, blood of Christ. And as I've pointed out, it goes into vampirism and goes into cannibalism, goes into where this originates from, which is these extraterrestrials that eat flesh, and they ask for sacrifices, blood sacrifices in the Bible. They ask for animals to be sacrificed, sprinkle blood over the altars, and all this blood. Just Google the word blood in the Bible and see how much time that comes in. So people are following a ritual which goes into paganism, which goes into Wiccanism, which ties into worshipping these entities that feed off of the energy that you're actually feeding by way of your thoughts, your intentions, and the sacrifices that you're making. All that vibration and energy is fed to them. You see, so yeah, it's and according to the Bible, this is what I'm saying. When people don't read all the books, because they don't take the time to say, these 66 books that were actually accepted and compiled into this book called the Bible today have a lot of missing books that are not included. What do those books say? And this is where you start to put pieces together. The book of Enoch, the book of Mary, the many books, the book of Wars, the book of Jubilee. There's so many books that are not included in the Bible that tell you aspects that they didn't want you to know about, such as the cross fiction. It's a fictitious story. They say crucifixion, but when you get to the crux, C-R-U-X, the crux of the matter, you find out that it's the biggest or greatest story ever told. And that's what they call it, the greatest story ever told. Because it's not real. They haven't found any evidence to substantiate the claim. So yeah, I know I kind of like, sometimes I go on a bit just for the purposes of the listening audience, but yes, you are right that the real Yahshua out of the one spoken about in the Bible went back to Egypt and lived till 120 years old and crossed over and was taken up from the top of a pyramid, as in a craft took him up. So when you look from the aerial view of a pyramid, you see a cross. And this is where the concept on that story comes from. But it wasn't him that actually transfigured, which is the word that you're really using. When you study the scriptures in the language, it's explaining that he transfigured Judas, because remember, they didn't even know what he looked like. Because when those Pharisees and the Sanhedrin came to the garden to find and get Jesus, they were like, we need you to identify him. So go up to him and kiss him, right? So we would know who he is, because they would ask, who is Jesus of Nazareth? Who is he? And what happened is, if you read the story carefully, he said, I am he, and they fell to the ground. It happened about 2 or 3 times. But in the identification of him, he transfigured Judas to look like him after Judas went to identify him. So now they took him, Judas that is, remember there was a scuffle and everyone was scrubbling and then they took him. And listen to what he's actually saying. He's saying it's not me, blah, blah, blah. And they took him anyway. And then if you follow the story, they took him away. He got crucified on the cross. Then they tell you that Mary went to look for Jesus. Excuse me. There's so many holes to the story. First, they say that he was in the spirit and came out of the tomb, rose on the 3rd day and all that. And they say that if it was a spirit, why was the tomb moved when they went to see him? I'm not going to give you the entire story, but Mary saw him. He was disguised as a gardener. And, they asked her, why do you look for the living amongst the dead? And when she said she was looking for her master, he told her, I am not yet ascended, but go and tell them that I have. Meaning that he was undercover now. And he went and told the disciples the story that he told her to tell them. And then when they met him, he ate flesh, he ate fish. A spirit can't move stones, if you're a spirit, you can go through stones. Excuse me. As they tell you with the lie with the cloth that they call Turin, where they say Jesus left an impression on it. But that's another whole story. So, yeah, I'm just saying that, so it's a cross-fiction, the greatest story ever told. Then they add Christmas and all these other stuff to it to make money.
So, thank you. I appreciate that. The other, actually, I have 2 more questions.
Go ahead.
So how does that relate to Melchizedek? When he apparently in the scriptures it speaks about he was a high priestess and he came to Jesus before and that Jesus was going to be in the line of the Melchizedek
that's because
order.
Because Melchizedek or Malachi Zadok, he's the high priest known by many names, such as Michael, the angel Michael. He's known as Murdoch or Murdoch. And depending on which culture and what language and which scripture you're looking at, he is the highest. Sorry, my throat's a little bit sore. He's the highest that everyone learned from. That's the being we know as Parnabab Yanun today, or the incarnation of Tahuti. And he's the one that taught Jesus, because Jesus was after his order. That order was known as the order of the Zadoks, or as you say, the ancient and mystical order of Melchizedek, where everybody went to study and learn. And in ancient Egypt, it was known under the Egyptian mystery schools. And you had to be initiated and then taught the sciences. This is why Jesus went to Egypt when Herod was trying to kill all the newborn boys. And his missing years in the Bible is because he was studying in Egypt and he was taught alchemy, the transfiguration of base metals, and that when he came back at the age of 13, which is when you take what they call a bar mitzvah in Jewish law, he was arguing with the excuse me, he was arguing with the elders in the temples because he was trying to teach them what he learned from Egypt. He was able to do miracles like, multiply loaves of bread and fish and all that, turn water into, alcohol. The same thing Moses did. He was taught how to transform the stick into a snake. All of these were Egyptian sciences where they learnt. Everyone went to Egypt to study under Melchizedek or under this master. And Moses, Abraham, Jesus, Joseph and his family, anyone that is of any importance in the Bible has ties to Egypt in some way, shape or form. And that comes all the way till today in modern times where you have Alexander, who they say Alexander the Great, because you have a great library in Alexandria in Egypt where all the Europeans were taught. Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Pythagoras, all these plebeians, European Greeks and Romans, they learned and were taught in Egypt. But they weren't given all the details of the hidden secrets. They got the lesser mysteries. And that's what became your religious books. Because the Anunnaki stories go back to the Sumerians, who get it from the Egyptians. So it's just a watered down version of the stories in ancient Egypt, which is why Osiris, Isis and Horus in the Greek, taken from Asaru, in our Tamaraean stories, where you have Asaru, you have Aset, and you have Hara, becomes Osiris, Isis, and Horus in Greek, then ends up in Christianity in English as God the Father, God the Son, and then the Holy Ghost. But all of this is factual information that anybody can research. And that Jesus and Mary story goes back to the Black Madonna, goes back to the Aset and Horus or Hara, you see.
So that would, okay, so this is the issue about reincarnation has been kind of, I would say, shunned, or a lot of the Christians believe that they don't believe in.
Obviously they do, because it doesn't make sense to say Jesus was here, he's dead, and he's going to come back again. That's reincarnation.
Yeah, but they believe it only concerning him.
Okay, what's so special about him?
Well, what I'm saying, where I'm getting to is that if we are to believe in reincarnation, because most of us, like when we speak about the West, we weren't taught about reincarnation unless you go into other types of spirituality. Like now we have the light workers and all this going on.
Let me help you with that. It's your knowledge of what reincarnation is, because they make it into this mystical thing. Like cardinal, when you're looking at that word, it means to come back again in the exact same physical cardinal body. That is not possible because your body decomposes, so you can't come back in the same body. However, when you have a child, right, you're a reincarnation because your DNA and your genetics are going to pass on to the child. So when you're looking at that child, you're looking at that child going back generations to your parents, their parents, their parents. So that being that you're seeing coming through, it's a reincarnation, but not in the way that they're teaching you it in Christianity or religious dogma, because your DNA, your genes, this is why they're able to reanimate DNA that they find from the mummies and the tombs. Because DNA is that science that they now know governs every part of your being. You see, so you are a reincarnation of your ancestors. And if you
Right.
have offspring, those children that you're having are reincarnations. Like Tahuti reincarnates through different beings throughout times, and is now here in the personage or the physical body of Malachi Z.K. York. That's a reincarnation.
Okay.
Do you follow?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so yeah, and I'm just this is not maybe necessarily a question. I'm sorry for the noise. I'm outside.
It's okay. We got noise cancellation. We can't really hear it.
Okay, good, perfect. I'm just I'm a little not baffled. I was listening to the question earlier. The caller that called in earlier, speaking on the if you want to date outside of your race, for a better word. I just find it so bizarre, but I understand now why from learning from Wu-Sabat. But why does Nuwapian Sabian beings, the Taru, have to explain all the time? They have to defend themselves against wanting to be with their own. I just have a hard time with like when I hear it, it hurts me, especially when I can hear it from a Nuwapian, maybe who don't really know who they are now yet.
Yeah.
But I find it's.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's actually because you have to remember that a lot of us who are considering the Garus or Nubians or whatever, the DNA has been mixed with 60s to 40s to the point where there's this thing called hate of self, right? To the point where we've been taught to not love and be ourselves. So yeah, it's only when we do things that is considered, like someone say you're racist, for example, and you say, what's the behavior of a racist? And you compare it to what other people do, it's nowhere near what you're doing. And you're right, in terms of natural selection, it just makes sense. But we're not saying, Nuwapians don't really date anyway. This is what I was saying about, sorry, I'm trying to do my voice. Yeah.
Yes, you're working hard.
Yeah, I know. We push and push. But
thank you.
it's okay. It's like we're looking at a new generation and we teach them about not having boyfriends and girlfriends and dating and all of that, because by the time you're 18, you would have mixed, especially if you're active sexually, and would have mixed so much DNA that it actually affects your mind and your offspring. So yeah, it's really about the future, but we're not dictating for people, who they choose to love or be with or whatever. That's their choice. But we know what makes sense as nine ether beings, that we got to keep our genetics as pure as possible, and everyone to their own. But we know what makes sense, and we got to teach that, whether people like it or accept it or not. But yeah, again, any final words, because we've got other people waiting?
Yes. Yeah, those were the questions for now. I guess the last thing I would say is in being in nature, and I watch how nature works. I don't see the red birds mixing with the bluebirds in that way, and I don't think they have a problem with it, and I don't, what I mean? Like, it's lovely.
That's why we say we're animists and we study natural nature and what works naturally, not It's not because we say so. Like you say, you don't see a tiger and a lion mixing unless some scientists decides I'm going to take their DNA and mix it to produce a liger, which is not natural, and then it doesn't live long anyway because, yeah. But you're right, natural nature, we have to study nature and see what works and what doesn't.
Yes, all right, thank you. Not that we have a problem with the other mixes and everything, but we, you know, in order to have a fruit salad, we still have to start with the original pieces, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
That's all I'm saying. All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome, anytime. Yeah, so I was just finishing off the question about so can I use the devil, the one only? There's so many devils on the planet doing real devilishness. So anyway, like, let's move on. Okay, here we go. Okay, I already gave Miss TBJ, thank you again. Right about, why are the videos of the master teacher talking like he's a Muslim on YouTube? Yeah, again, you may be new, but one of the things we explain is that the master teacher, being a master teacher, taught us in a particular way, in the method that he knew will yield the best results, right? So he took us through schools of learning. He was giving us Wu-Sabat or wu-nuwapu or wu-nuwapu, but at the time, our minds were so messed up by the spell of Leviathan, 6 ether forces, that we kept asking questions about religion. So he had to submerge us in the religious schools. Let me finish this live call. And shall I carry on? Yeah, so we went through the schools of religion. That's why you have these books. Look, the degree of Christism, the degree of Mohammedism, and we completed all those religious schools. And the reason he did that was so he can prepare us to save and help everyone on the planet, because people come from all walks of life, from religious backgrounds. So when we're speaking to a Muslim, we speak from a point of view of having lived it, studied the Quran, studied the Arabic, studied basically everything to do with it until we mastered it and graduated from it. And then we went on to other schools and other schools. So those videos you're seeing on YouTube are during those times. You have to look at the dates and when these videos were put out and at what school we were at the time. So yeah, that's why you see a video of him speaking Hebrew and breaking down Hebrew. You see a video of him dealing with Egyptology and dealing with science and history. Basically, every subject you can think of, you see him breaking it down on a video. So those were schools of learning, and we came out of those schools. And today we're able to speak to anyone from those schools and help them also come out of that spell. All right, let's take this call. Hey, Rahubat, caller, what's your name and what's your question, please?
Rahubat second, this is Terry.
Hey, Terry, Rahubat.
Yeah, so I had a question because I was looking at the expansion, like the oil expanding.
Yes.
Yeah. So I understood one concept where the expansion is not linear, but much as we have the concept of the oil expanding, we also have the expansion in consciousness.
Right, correct.
Yes. So my first question is, what could be the consequences of resisting this expansion, especially for those people who for a lack of a better word, who are not spiritually evoked?
Right. Okay, I hear you. All right. The thing about expansion is that whether you like it or not, you're expanding. The issue then becomes, okay, let me explain that. Every day you're changing, you're growing. Like you started off as a baby and then you became a toddler, then you became a young adult, teenager, and then an adult, and you're expanding, you're growing, your cells are growing, some people are growing even in terms of their physical body getting bigger and bigger, right? So expansion is kind of natural, but the thing is, the what shall I say? The adverse to expanding is contraction. So you can expand in different ways. You can expand going in one direction negatively, or you can expand positively. But eventually, either one will contract, meaning that you will expire in the physical body at some point when it's gone to the point where it can no longer maintain or sustain itself. Just like, you know, when the universe expands or other, you know, celestial bodies expand, they will collapse or explode and evolve. So it's a matter of whether like you're ascending or descending. If you're ascending in a positive direction, then you're raising, like you say, in vibration, in consciousness, so that when you then transition from this physical, when you've expanded to the point where, okay, that's it now, you can move on to the next level of expansion in that realm and continue growing and learning and experiencing different things. Or you go the other way where you cease to exist, in the sense that you cannot continue your journey. You dissipate because you can't destroy energy, but it just gets stuck, or can't continue to experience other existences. All right. Oh, right. Greetings, Rahubat caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's your question, please?
Roll back. This is Jamel.
Rahubat Zamal.
I was calling from Atlanta. I'm pretty much calling because I got a question to ask you. It seemed to be a split. Not seemed to be a split. Let me just get to my question. Do you think there's homosexuality inside of ancient Egyptian culture? Though I'm not talking about like is Egypt is a place that does homosexuality. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about more of its belief. Mm-hmm. Do you think that, you know, since there are ancestors, or do you think there's methodology? And if you think they're either or, when it comes to homosexuality, does that play a part into that?
Right.
Yeah.
The first thing is, when we say Egyptian culture, we have to clarify when we're talking about and who we're talking about, because there were people that came into what people are calling Egypt with their
Talk about first, the beginning.
Right, that's what I'm saying. When you say the beginning, no, that did not exist. But what I'm saying also is there are things, because we have an excellent video on YouTube called Gateways and the Guardians, if you haven't seen that, by one of our sisters, that explains it very well in detail, because it's everything that we're talking about has a science. So you had beings called hermaphrodites and hermaphrodites, right? When you break down those words, hermaphrodite is her morphing into a he, and hermaphrodite or hermaphrodite morphing the other way around. So he morphing into a she, and she morphing into a he. So we had beings, when you go back to the original beings that were here, that were hermaphrodites and hermaphrodites. You can read an actual fact called, I think it's Existence, How and Why, that touches on this as well. But my point is that misconstrued information, so when people say homosexual, there's hormone as in the hormones, and having double frequencies as in being a being that has a double resonant frequency, right? This is where you might have a physical being that is male but has a spiritual female being inside of their physical male being, and vice versa, where you have a physical female with a male spirit. And these beings were special and were utilized because of their double resonance frequency to open gates, right? That's what I'm saying. Watch that video, Guardians and Gateways, that goes into detail explaining what these beings were responsible for. So a being like people know as Uncle Aten, if you look at him, his physical body has mammary glands and he has hips and it kind of looks like a female. He was one of these such beings. But it didn't necessarily mean that because you got both genitals, and today females have double genitals, because when you look at, this is biology, the clitoris is a penis, and if you look at when a child is at 6 weeks, its gender is not known, and it's either that the penis contracts and becomes a clitoris, or it elongates and grows the other way. We have actual fact again called is God male or female, right? That shows you the diagrams and goes into detail. I'm saying all that to say that today you have people that are confused because they don't understand the science of being a physical male on the outside but having a female spirit. Then you mix that with people that are oversexed, people that just want to experience all kinds of perversions, together with these like Greeks, as in the Hyksos dynasty that came into what people are calling Egypt, and the Phoenicians and people that brought in their perversions and their different habits. So people will look at the papyrus of Turin in Egypt and say this talks about them being homosexuals, not understanding or fully understanding the science behind it. So some people be like, I feel like I am a male on the inside, but I'm female. So they would then try to maybe have a partner that's female, because even though they're not, if you're following what I'm saying, so it all depends. So you've got a combination of people that are homosexual as opposed to homosexual. You have people that are oversexed. You have people that are just perverted and confused by way of what they've been programmed with perversions and pornography and all kinds of stuff. So every situation with a person is going to be unique and different. And because we don't get into people's bedrooms, or we don't really like judge people on their sexuality and all of that, we just say we know what we subscribe to. We have a scroll called the 33 Commandments that tells us clearly that we're not we're heterosexual. We mix with male and female, and we produce offspring and so on and so forth. So I hope I've given you enough. I know because we're on a live call, I gave you so many references, but I hope I've answered your question. If not, please, let me know.
Well, I'm confused on is that okay? I get that part, especially when it comes to the papyrus of Anu, and reading the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and all the stuff that comes with that, and the science of why Gab and Noob, and
the priest of Amun and certain perversions that people talk about.
and really get heed to, or really get sensitive around that subject. So, but my confusion was, do you believe that was like ancestors, or do you believe that's mythology, where it's like, do you actually believe this is like from descendants, people who just in that way? Or
No, that's what I'm saying. Like with us,
where it's just they gods, and
this is what I'm saying. But when we even say gods, we're talking about these beings, these perverted beings that came here. And like, if you go back to what we were saying about, like these beings from like Nirvana and, the Kama Sutra and certain things that basically were taken from the red me stone, right? Which became what people call the Kama Sutra today, with all kinds of perversions and all kinds of things where, if you read again in the holy tablets, the master teacher explains and shows you with you know, the symbols of what people are calling the swastika today, which is how homosexuality in the, you know, what you call the land of Canaan, and in that land of Nod, where these disagreeable beings came here, they were carrying on with all types of sexual acts and perversions that obviously got passed down into certain beings and certain people's genetics. But no, with our ancestors, no, that's not what we practiced at all. So when we say the gods, we have to be careful of which beings we're talking about. But our ancestors, no, they weren't about that. And that's why, you know, till this day, we're not really about that. But we're not gonna condemn people or gay bash, or, you know, we stay out of people's bedrooms and we don't really, you know, discriminate. Like, it's down to people what they choose, but there obviously are consequences that come along with whatever decisions you make. Now, there may be people that are just confused and don't know and have made mistakes, or need to be taught the right knowledge so that, you know, they know where they really stand. Because like I said, until the master teacher put out, you know, books like Genetic Kiss, and it was explaining beings like having, you know, a physical male body but with a female spirit, and feeling, you know, like no one can really explain to them. So what they would do is try to, and you saw this increasingly where people are trying to change their sex, physical sex, to match with what they feel on the inside. And the same way you have males that will say, you know, or a woman that will say, I feel like a man on the inside, and then they go about trying to get surgery to look like a man. But, you know, it's just because they're not aware of these sciences that the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York, is teaching us. So it's a very broad subject, but there is a lot of information already that he's put out on it.
You know, for me, I always said that, you know, when it comes to homosexuality, I always say that, you know, in ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, you know, I always say that, yes, homosexuality played a play. It's not as restricted as, you know, as the Bible or people who believe in the Israelite tradition, because we had kings and queens that was homosexual. So it's like we have some of that stuff going on, but to claim it as a entirely homosexual, so a homosexual religion, I think is far out base. I don't think that people really did practice homosexuality as a good thing.
No, they didn't. That's what I'm saying. It was through invasions or corruption and distortions by other people coming in and introducing their ways. Like I mentioned, the Greeks, for example. That's part of it. But yeah, no. Naturally, if you study our, you know, history, as in our story, that's not, you know, that's not something that we practice. But yeah, we got another call coming in. So unfortunately, did that help you though?
Yeah, it did.
All right.
See you later.
All right. Tell what is it cut off? Right. Let me go through some of the questions again, because
We need 150 viewers. That's
we
what we need.
we need 150 viewers. Come on, we're on 126,
129.
229. Come on, we can do it. We got half an hour. And look, I'm putting myself through this, even like how I'm feeling. So you can help us do that, right? Okay, let's go to the next question. How best can we maintain a high vibration and momentum as we transition to the other side? I read where the initiate of Tahuti perform daily rituals which help. Yeah, this is what Wu-Sabat is. Just honestly, study the part of that. Study the scrolls. Twambo, that's for you, right? Wu-Sabat has all those answers. I said it before, Wu-Sabat literally has all the answers for what you need. Rahubat, my people, I have a quick question. Have you heard of our brother Credo Mutwa? What do you say about this teaching on extraterrestrials? Yeah, we know about him. And he was teaching something that's been confirmed about beings coming from, Sirius, and teaching them coming out of the water and so forth. This is just something we teach about the different types of extraterrestrials. So yeah, we're that's Mali, right? The Dogons with Nomo, or the Nomos. I like your glasses again. Thank you. What are the Akashic? The Akashic records, right, can be broken down in so many ways. But as usual, the master, when I say to you that every question you ask, the master has written a book on, here you go, the Akashic records. This is the scroll that goes into it. The way other people, other races try to explain it is that there's a place where we all get our information from and tap into, right? Even in the Quran, it's mentioned and it's referred to as the Sijin, or these records are kept in a place in Iliyun. But people just didn't realize or know what it was until the master teacher brought down that Iliyun is the galaxy where he comes from. The planet Risk is in Iliyun, where all the records are kept. But you have levels to this, right? So the mental reservoir, in fact, we did a video recently on it, genius and the science of the letter G, yeah? We will go into this because you are tapping into something called a mental reservoir. So you're like a node on a computer system, like how you have a laptop or a desktop connected to a network at work, and they have a server. All right. The Akashic records is where all the records, all the information is kept. We said that the master teacher has 76 trillion years of information. Most of the records, like you, for example, are connected to that because you're an etheric being. And just like in the physical world, your Ethernet cable connects your laptop to the network, which opens up your laptop to receiving loads of information from other people from the server. Or now we say the internet, because you're connected to the internet, to many servers that you can pull information from, Google, etc. So your one computer has access to all these records. The etheric cord, not the Ethernet cable that you use in the physical world, but your etheric cord that connects you to your etheric parents, who are connected to their parents, and so on and so forth, in this network of Ethereal beings. They give us information which comes from them to us as from outformation into information. So Panda Babyanun, being one of these beings, right, the highest of them, has 76 trillion years of information to give us, but he's been allocated to give us 25,000 years of information, and he has been doing so. That's why he coined the phrase, I come giving you what you want, so you would learn to want what I have to give, and I'm going to achieve the mission of conveying this information to you by a method called, I'm going to take you on a long journey on a short path, meaning that the long journey is the amount of information you have to absorb in the short space of time, So when you're saying the long journey, that's the information. The short path is the time you have. So you need to stop wasting time and digest as much as Wu-Sabat as you can, because people are asking, how would that help me to the next levels? Well, depending on how studious you are, how much you study, how much you apply, you get the ability to receive your barothry gland, which is another way of opening you up to receive more, because you start to use more of your brain. And it was a gradual process. He had to teach us and walk us through all the schools of religion to get back to the point where you start to think for yourself. and not just be trapped in this mental spell of, you know, God is the one that knows everything. Because when you get to the point where you're asking God questions that you can't get answers for, he doesn't know, then you have outgrown that God, and you realize that you are the God. So you have to now wear the mask of God. So anyway, the Akasha records are what people refer to as these records that you can tap into. But yeah, the master teacher has already broken it down and explained it in actual fact, right? Number 72, called the Akasha records. Other people, they explain it like it's a mystical thing and a mystical place and whatever, but the master teacher gives you access to that by opening your third eye up. That's part of your rising in your vibration and your consciousness, and boom, you're switched on, you're connected, and you start to receive affirmation into information by applying Wu-Sabat. All right, cool. That's the Akasha records. Rahul Bhat, OSM Vision, much needed levels, much needed love. Thank you. Again, loads of love. Are we nearly 150 yet? 136.
We're two away. We're 148.
148. Wow, yeah.
2 people.
Yeah, that's what we call real time, acting in real time. We're glad to see you coming into the... Okay, that's people talking. Let's see what else we've got here. Okay, solar ray. One thing I notice and love about Wu-Sabat is you can apply it to all aspects of life. Absolutely, it helps to make common sense common again. So true. That's why I was saying that just start applying Wu-Sabat and you see the changes in your life. Oh, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I know. That's why I need to really, I need to go back to the basics, back to the drawing board. Do you guys realize we have Wu-Sabat 24/7 now live? Like, forget BBC. Oops, I don't know. Forget all the other channels. Yeah, no one watches terrestrial TV anymore. Anyway, like, just put it on OSM Vision, Wu-Sabat live 24/7, and just keep taking it in, man, because that is the future. Yep, you're right. Wu-Sabat answers all your questions. Pleasure is more immediate. Joy is sustained. That's right. Thanks for that, Tashawn. You don't have to look like us to be involved. Yeah, looks are deceiving. You know, like, you have to learn. This is the master saying. You have to learn to look into people, not at them. All right. Oh, thanks again, Solar Ray. Yeah, that's what time it is, man. We got to step up and know that you gotta be you. You gotta be the god and goddess that you are. Your divine purpose. Another way of putting it is, you're reading books. Yeah, books. The minute they're written, they're becoming old and obsolete, in the sense that they're not alive. They're not changing. And we are currently writing the book of life, our story. So imagine, like, I don't know, however long from now, 100 years from now, people are reading, like, you're reading all these books about the Anunnaki, Enki, Enlil, and, you know, our ancestors. But how did those people, no matter whether or not what they did was agreeable or disagreeable, they did something, right? Something to the point where they're included in that book. What are you doing in your book, in this book that we're writing? Like, if you were to say, we're reading a book of 2025 or whatever, we could say, yep, oh, OSM Vision was doing this, Ken was doing this. What were you doing? What are you doing? Because people like to come in the comments and say all kinds of crazy stuff. But what are you doing? Bring your piece of the puzzle to the bigger picture. Let's build, let's work together. So yeah, remember that we're writing our story right now. Okay, what's going on? Wow, yeah. Surprise. tell them.
I've been waiting to get 150 viewers. I've been waiting.
150 viewers.
So now we've got 100k subscribers, we've got 150 people here watching. This is for you to open live on stream now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you guys see? Make it. I just said we're writing our own story, and look, this is something that I didn't know about. It's just come. Wow, look at that. Official. You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you remember your first subscriber, your 100th, or your 1,000th subscriber? Chances are that you do. And we know that you'll definitely remember your 100,000 subscriber. Your fans may have found you while searching YouTube, learn about you through a friend, or maybe you showed up as a recommended video. No matter how they came to your channel, your audience stayed and their numbers increased because of you and the community that you've built. We're proud to honor you, your impressive milestone of reaching 100,000 subscribers with the Silver Creator Award. Congratulations. We're celebrating. We're going to celebrate. And yeah, when the master teacher come out, now that's going to be a party. We know that you have many more stories to share with your community, and we know that your fans can't wait for you to amaze them even more with your commitment and creativity. So keep creating, keep building. We can't wait to see what you'll do next, and we're here to support you along the way. And who knows, when you reach your millionth subscriber, we may just write to you and ask, do you remember your 100,000 subscriber? Yours sincerely. This is the YouTube himself, Mr. YouTube, Neil Morgan. And look at that. Listen, man, there's nothing that's going to stop us. You know, the master teacher's coming home, and this is just a milestone, you see. So keep helping us, keep doing what you're doing, and help us to get to that 1 million. And you know how amazing the synchronicity is. I was just about to read what, so thank you guys. Thank you so much. We got 8 billion people, so we got, 8 billion people to reach on the planet. So reaching 1 million should really not be that hard for us to do, right? Because literally whatever we put our mind to, we can do. All right. So yeah, I was just about to read the comment again, which touched me from Solar Ray. And he said, I agree, although all the student teachers do their part, so Ken has definitely put himself out in the forefront for the bigger picture, and it shouldn't go unnoticed. And we received that right at that moment. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much to everyone. We can't thank you enough, because there are challenges that come with this, whether you're not well or the negative comments, but we have a plan, trust me. Like, there is a strategy, and you are helping us, and we're going to execute it according to what we know will give us the best results. But keep watching, stick with us, tell other people. And yeah, I'm touched by your comments, Solar Ray. So Ken displays a prime example of a non-selfish act and a shook.
Scroll to the bottom so you can see your congratulations.
Oh man, you guys, you want me to cry, right? Real men do cry, okay? Nah, for real, man. Like, we can't thank you guys enough. And listen, once Partner Babianoon walks out of that hellhole, the whole vibration and frequency on this planet is going to change. And there ain't no stopping pops for those who know. So we're in that day and time. Just, I want you to step up your glory, be yourself, and come into Wu-Sabat to help us build and grow. There are many people who we've touched, millions in fact, and not all have stayed and have been loyal and stayed on the journey. Although, when someone has a vision, you may not see it, but like I said at the beginning, Bitcoin was just a vision by someone. And those who got on board early, they profited and benefited later on. Facebook, YouTube was just an idea. Look at what YouTube's doing today. Look how many millions of people. People have millions of subscribers. 7 million people watching one video. The power of YouTube is amazing, and it's the future. And I know, can you imagine Pa and Nababi Noon right now coming on Wu-Sabat? OSM and just giving us, wow, we can make that happen. It doesn't have to be this platform, but I'm just saying, man, like, yeah, we've got about 15 minutes left, so let me try and see if there's any questions that people haven't got answered. But yeah, remember, Telegram, I don't know if you posted it today. Join our Telegram group because we keep it going live. Not only are we broadcasting 24/7 live on YouTube, but we're also answering people's questions in the Telegram group. We have many, listen, you see me, but as you can see on the lives, you're starting to see, shout out to our brother Caffrey, you know, he makes it simple, back to basics. We got brothers from different parts of the world, classes coming through. We got, this is what I'm saying about bringing your piece of the puzzle to fit with the rest so we can build it and see the picture clearly. You know, like when you have a big puzzle, it could be, I don't know, hundreds of pieces. As you put each piece together is when you start to see the picture emerge, right? This is what we're doing. And everyone on the planet who is going to resonate with Wu-Sabat has that piece that needs to come together. So keep doing what you're doing, and don't be a spectator. Don't just spectate, yeah? Get involved, participate. Yeah, so as I was saying, we're that Bitcoin at the beginning where no one else really saw where it was going. And that's just an analogy, because there's going to be people that are going to not like crypto and all that. So I'm just using that as an example so we can, yeah, next, we're not even going to, we're just going to go to 1 million, and then you see what we can do as a people. But yeah, man, thank you again. Thank you. Right, let's see. Don't take what you need. Don't take more than you need. Just expect what you need to be there when you come back for more. Okay, Rahul Batsakan, if Jesus, as we understand him to be, is that another call? Okay. Okay. Did not die, but it's not Judith, it's Judas, did, whose blood? Okay, I think that was a caller anyway. Okay, cool. Akwasi, Rahubat, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's your question, please?
Name is Sakad, Arizona. It's been a while, brother. Glad to see you doing good. I came back on the day of 100,000. That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, right on time. Rahubat.
I know.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. I feel like lately I've been kind of in a confused state, right? And I feel like you've always kind of been on point, but I've had others in my life who I've kind of looked up to as well, who kind of say, you know, not necessarily that I'm not on the right track, but, you know, I need to have more awareness about the people that I believe in too quickly. But my question, I guess, is when it comes to the creator doesn't care about our complexion, right?
It depends who you're calling the creator. The creator does care about our complexion, or else why would we have different complexions?
Okay. And then My other question would be, before the master teacher was in prison, what was he teaching? Was it a reason why they imprisoned him specifically because what he was teaching at that time? If you remember?
Yeah. You know what? He didn't even realize the reason until much later on, and he was trying to figure it out because we know he's innocent. We know he's completely, you know, not guilty of anything, and he was trying to figure it out. And we were also the trumped up charges and psyching people up emotionally and all of that. They thought would work because in the past the formula they've used over and over and over again. I'm talking COINTELPRO, etc., etc.
Right,
So when
right.
they think they take away the leader, normally the body will fall, right? But in this case, when you're not one person, the head, and you empower others to be just like you, and you've created God in your image and your likeness, where there are millions of them around the world, that whole notion of taking the head and the body will fall does not work. But to answer your question, it's because of the information he was putting out. Now, it wasn't just any information because he puts out information on everything and on everyone. What it was specifically the information on extraterrestrials and information that was at that time when he was putting it out considered to be classified, meaning that you would have to have top level security to know about some of these things, even things that presidents don't know about because they get shown or told about extraterrestrials and certain things later on. There's a little book you see certain, when Obama was in office, they were like joking about, did you know about Area 51? And they started to reveal and make jokes in movies like Independence Day and certain movies where, because you had like Project Blue Book, the Majestic 12. I'm trying to think of some more of the projects off the top of my head. Maybe some people can add more in the comments. But a lot of what he was putting out back then in books like Mission Earth and Extraterrestrial Involvement, Man from Planet Risk, Is God an Extraterrestrial, Mystery Clouds, Are There UFOs in Your Midst? So many books that were just talking about extraterrestrials and giving pictures, images of technologies and things that were not known to the average public. But the thing is, he was telling them he's an extraterrestrial from a planet called Risk, and that he comes from worlds far beyond this world. And people thought he was crazy. He was talking about Shambhala and Agatha, cities within the earth. He was talking about tri-solar systems, like his planet Risk has 3 suns. He was talking about 3 parents' births. He was talking about the angels and the gods you're talking about are extraterrestrials. They're not what you've been told, like, men with wings and they come from heaven. And he was telling you the whole concept of what you all are doing on this planet. You need to be upgraded. And I've been sent here to raise your consciousness and your vibration. But everyone was like, this guy's crazy. And so they ridiculed, and he just said, you know what, I don't care what you think, but in time, you all are going to see that I am not crazy. And in time, when these things started to being revealed, they saw him as a threat, because if you have information that you don't want to alert and panic people on the planet to the point where there's chaos and you can't control it, they have to do it in a particular way. So much so that even the Vatican recently had to start to talk about extraterrestrials. The government had to do a disclosure, started to expose and talk about UFOs, UAPs. So with time, he has been proven to be right, to be the extraterrestrial that he is, to have information way, way, way ahead of time, and to constantly teach us things that nobody else can. So to answer your questions, a great question to kind of come to the end of the session today is that, yeah, it was really about him putting out information that they thought, how do you know all of this? You must have some kind of, even hackers, computer programmers that break into NASA and certain places, they're not dealt with lightly, you see. So, but now they're starting to come to terms and realize that he is who he is, whether people like it, whether they accept it or not. He is who he is, and we're so fortunate. Imagine, I was watching a podcast the other day with, again, it was Terrence Howard and some of these Mukasu trying to explain and break down, stuff that they would spend hours going around in circles that they don't know or understand, but a master teacher knows and has already taught us, and goes back to what I always say about why, if he was a Caucasian or a European or an Asian for that matter, he would be receiving Nobel Peace Prizes for the stuff he's been teaching us. But nevertheless, he's not in it for the accolades. He's here to change the world and raise our consciousness and bring those who are ready to evolve to being those supreme beings that they really are.
So one thing that really my soul can't settle with, and maybe you can help me understand more. I have another spiritual brother who he's trying to help me understand, but I just can't get around it. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's no way that the Creator only benefits us as being melanated. There's just no way, right?
No, he
doesn't
does.
the Creator
But again, that's what I'm
represent
saying.
love?
We are love. We teach Ashok and divine love, and we teach love to everyone. We're not racist. That's go on the website UnitedSaviorsWorldwide.com. We teach no one wins the race and racism. We are not the problem on this planet with wars, famines, and destructions and murders, killings, and all kinds. We are not the ones that do this. So we are not saying the Creator only loves us. We're saying truth is truth, facts are facts, and there are people on this planet that are just, doing the right thing, and that's it. That's all that matters. It's not about color and the skin suit you're in, So
And
we welcome everyone. Yeah.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about right there, because I noticed though in this community, when it comes to a lot of us, a lot of us brothers, they think just because we're woke that we're superior, and that's what irks my soul, is the fact of you can't say you're superior, because in this physical form that we're in, this is just a physical form. You can't say, oh, because of this physical form we're superior in the spiritual form as well. That doesn't sit right with me, brother. And that's what keeps irking me,
The growth comes with your humility, your ability to subdue the ego, and that's why the master put out books like Your Potential, The Mind, because when you read those books, spiritual masters, they have to be able to teach everyone and anyone who's willing to learn. They don't have that discrimination.
I look at everybody as a brother. Everyone. I don't care what color they are.
That's divine love. But at the same time, limitations are limitations, like by natural nature, if someone is here and they can't walk, then because you can walk doesn't mean you're superior to them, but that's a physical, to a certain degree, can be a physical disadvantage, right? So things are what they are. Like, you are who you are, and the reality is that everyone's just got to live and let live and deal with Ashok, which is divine love. That's what we teach in Wu-Sabat.
Right.
All right.
So when it came to, it's been a while. I'm sorry. I know I gotta let you go. Once the master teacher was in prison, were you chosen by the community? Because my other spiritual brother also has said, he says, that doesn't really sound like y'all are actually with him. And I try to keep telling him, like, yes, they are. Like, I can feel it. I can feel it when you speak. I know spirituality. I know something that's right. But if you could answer for me, why were you chosen out of everyone to continue, I guess, to be the face?
I wasn't chosen to be the face. Anybody can do what I'm doing. But I know what you mean. Obviously, nature, the ancestors, work with those who they choose to work with. The master teacher said it himself. He said that, you know, when people were coming at him, when he was just going through the schools of religion and saying, oh, you're not who you are. Like, at 21, he was able to publish and translate all, you know, the major scriptures, where you have imams, sheikhs, and rabbis and people that were in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and no one else has been able to do that even up until this day. So he's like, well, if I think he's on the documentary, there's a clip on if you haven't seen the Wu-Sabat documentary, watch that.
Yeah, they sent it to me. Yeah. I gotta watch
anyway,
it.
He said on there that I think it was the bit where he was saying when he was going to church and asking questions, and then his grandma was kind of like, he said that if the Most High has blessed me to reach so many people, millions of people are listening to me, how is that not positive? How is that if I'm so bad, why would he give me that kind of ability? It's the same I would say, like, they choose who you choose to listen to, and you can feel the vibration, as you say. So the resonance frequency will move, and people that are in tune with it will feel it. And at the end of the day, anyone, and we have other brothers and sisters, other teachers that are also spreading Wu-Sabat. I just, like anyone else, just was like, you know, I'm so passionate about this. I love the master teacher so much. He changed my life. And I was watching the state of the world, watching the state of our nation, our tribe, and it was like, come on, like the master's incarcerated doing over 20 something years, and we cannot let his works go in vain. And I'm gonna put myself out there regardless, because if he can sacrifice himself for us, why can't we do the same? And he says, you all say you love me, but you have to show it by way of your actions. Show how much you love the master teacher by being the example that he has taught you to be. You understand? So it's like, it's not just about lip service and talk. You can just make a video to talk about his, you know, the injustice. You can read, you can propagate, you can teach, you can share what you know. So everyone can do what I'm doing, and that's what's happening. We need to do more of it, because we need to reach so many souls and save so many souls as we do in Black and Gold. But we've run out of time.
I know. Sorry.
Yeah, but you know, the Telegram is still going, and we are back next week, same time, same place. So yeah, come back if you have.
Thank you, brother.
You're
How
welcome.
do you say love again in Wu-Sabat?
Ashok.
Ashok, brother. Always a shook.
Ashok Zama. Tawat. Right. We run out of time, but I think you got one more question. Okay, let me do a few more questions. What does the master teacher say about... All right, let's take it.
Did he run out of time?
No, it's good. You made it. You got the golden ticket.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
You're the last caller for today.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Raubat,
Okay,
what's your name? Where you
thank
calling
you.
from, and what's your question?
Raubat. This is Rita from
Hey,
San Francisco Bay Area.
Yes, I remember.
Hi.
Raubat. I was thinking about you the other
Yes.
day. I'm like, you ain't called for a minute, but yeah. Glad to hear
I
from
know. I've been listening, and I've been doing a lot. But congratulations, number one.
you.
And I
Tawat.
won't keep you because I know this is ending. But
It's okay. Go ahead.
I had a really quick question. I'm reading Genetic Kiss and learning a lot for sure. But one of the questions that I have with regards to the all expanding, I wanted to know,
when the Netaru or the 9 ether beings came to seed planet Earth, when we talk about them being the first, were they the first in being the first humans in all of creation and the all expanding, like beyond the animals and the fish in the sea and all of that? Was this like the first
tour?
Are the 9 ether beings the first like
Yes.
creation, human creation? Okay.
No, they're not. Okay. This
or-
is where the confusion in terms of human and creation.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So when we say creation, most of us are normally talking about life on planet Earth, right?
Yes, okay.
There are other
Right.
beings that have evolved on other planets and other star systems way before us. And that's
Okay.
such a good question, because once we get off the planet and we start to talk about these star systems, we start to talk about the beings that most people are familiar with that are mentioned in the biblical text, like beings from
Yes.
Octorus, being from Pleiades,
Yeah.
being from Aldebaran, beings from Orion. Now, when you start going into those star systems and you start to talk about, okay, who are these beings? So you see like the Pleiadians are from Taurus, or the Pleiades star constellation. Then you go into their genetics, like, okay, in the realm of extraterrestrials, you still have our ancestors being the Natharu, which would be those first beings. So when the master starts off with the holy tablets, which completed all those religious books, he says, I'm going to take you into time and space, into like existences which your time way outside your realm and time zones, to times where you can't even comprehend. But I will tell you. And then he starts off by saying there were the green beings of supreme green light. And then he breaks down how these supreme beings, this is our ancestors in the Tharu, then from them came the beings of amber light. And then it goes on to start to explain these different types of beings. But yes, we are the original. Everything you see in the stars replicates on the planet. So the original beings in the stars will be the Natharu. The original beings on the planet Earth will be their children, because they seeded the planet Earth, just like everyone comes from us on the planet in terms of our genetics and our DNA. So it's the same thing that when you see the races on the planet today, everyone ties back to their extraterrestrials. So, like the Caucasians, which now, through anthropologists, they're saying that will be the Neanderthal and the Cro-Magnon. You see, so that's one genetic. Then you'll have the Asians, which will be the Denisovan and the Homo florensis. That's another genetic. Then you go to us, which is the Homo habilis and the Homo naledi, which is another, but that one comes first. So everyone then ties into the different extraterrestrials that they come from or they're descendants of. So yes, the question is, wherever you go in the multiverses, we are those supreme beings. That's why one of them has been sent to come here to remind us of who we are and to get us back to remember who we are.
Okay, yeah. Oh, and thank you so much for that.
No
I
problem.
also wanted to, when you mentioned just a few, with one of the callers, you spoke of nirvana. I've always seen that as a state of enlightenment, like in Buddhism.
That's what they teach.
But when but what do you mean by that?
Oh, so
by nirvana?
Right. Again, we've run out of time, but we can carry on in the Telegram group or next week. But we're talking about a place. This is what I was saying. It's just like people will talk about the Akasha records as a mystical place, or then they will talk about, like because what happens is that when people go outside of the monotheistic religions and start to delve into others, like they will go into like Buddhism or Hinduism, and they start being taught about, these are the states of consciousness and the chakras, and they start to talk about enlightenment, and So they will talk about some of these things, like I said, like the Akasha records, like Nirvana being a state of mind that you rise into. So it's like heaven. So that is the same story that becomes heaven, meaning that heaven is an actual place, as we've said, that the constellations. But heaven is also a state of mind, meaning that heaven and hell are what you give yourself. You can make yourself live in hell. You can make yourself live in heaven just by the way you think, just your mind, because the mind is the most powerful thing you have. So the same way heaven and hell can be your neighborhood, where you look around and you see the drug addicts, the killers, the murderers, the all of that. You know, that's hell. But you can have hell as in you just the way you think, the desires you have.
Right.
You want this, you want that, you want things you can't have. Or you can look at hell as an actual physical place. So it's the same with heaven. And it's the same with these mystical places that people talk about. Because of the lack of knowledge at the time, they couldn't interpret them. So they just made it into, in the Quran, the seven heavens. And Muhammad riding a donkey to space, not realizing we're talking about crafts that came and picked him up and took him and showed him things and brought him back down, and he spoke to some extraterrestrial. You see, when you break it down with the right knowledge, the right wisdom, you get the right understanding. So then we demystify. Yeah, somebody, that's one of the ways I asked somebody that recently came into Wu-Sabat what it was that made them come in. And this is going to be the last point. I know we've gone over time. I asked them because, and I'm glad you reminded me of this, I have, and the master teacher also tries to decipher this thing where we're like, we reach millions of people, but how many of them actually then take it on board and live it and come and become a part of Wu-Sabat, etc., etc. Although it's more than anything else at the moment, it still kind of baffles me as to how people don't get it. And I asked his brother, what was it that made you, it's quite new as well, he started watching the YouTube videos from OSM Vision, and he said in one word, Wu-Sabat demystifies everything for me. He said it answered all the questions I ever had. And I was like, And he said, remember, the master says, many are called, few are chosen. You know, so that's what I felt when I came into Wu-Sabat. I was like, it demystifies everything. You know, you ain't got to worry about what is that story really talking about. Was it a really talking snake speaking to a woman who didn't run away?
Yes.
Is that real?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I hope that's helped you in some way. But I'm gonna
Tremendously.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you. I'll call back earlier next time, but thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Wadu. Family, it's 9:40. We normally stop at 9:30, so we gave you even more, right? So until next week, same time, same place. I want to say Nadum, sorry to those who didn't get their questions answered. You can ask in the Telegram group, or come back next week, same time, same place, and ask your question again. We can only do so much with the limited time we have, and we can never please everyone. So once again, where is it? Yeah, there you go. You should play the music again. Until next time, we want to say, appreciate love to everyone who helped us get here, yeah? All right. Wadu.